I just wrote down, rather than interrupt, I write down thoughts and I revisit them
Yeah.
or not. Stolen jokes, I just wrote. I have a hard time on stolen jokes, right? Because I would suspect, right? I mean, you can tell me as a professional comedian that is
Yeah.
okay to steal your jokes if you're a regular person. If some accountant is by the coffee maker telling your joke to a fellow one, enjoy your break, right? Like,
The accountant the accountant does not lose anything socially by saying, "Oh man, I saw this comedian, it was great," and then telling the joke. They still got the laugh. The person's still like, "Hey, that was funny. I enjoyed hanging out with Bob. Bob's a good dude." You don't lose any social acumen or social acuity, whatever the fuck the word is. But like the idea of passing it off as his own, that's
still
shitty.
So if I made a joke good enough to
shitty.
steal and the accountant does that, knock yourself out. If I write a joke and like it actually happened to my daughter made a joke about a movie. I think she said that what is the Liam Neeson movie? Taken was Finding Nemo for adults. And someone took that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's not her joke.
We were under the impression it was. And
that's a general observation that many people have had. If she had it independently, that
could have been.
highlights how bright she is.
So, but she said it in one of our videos, and then shortly afterwards, it seemed like it was a stolen joke. Who knows how it played out? Parallel thinking, or
there's a professional comedian who tells that joke. I've never written a joke Oh, please do.
Oh yeah. So accountant steals it, everything is cool. Professional comedian steals it, kind of not cool. You know, you're supposed to come up with your own material.
Here's why the accountant stealing it is not cool, though. Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
And it's the end of it is sometimes I find myself somewhere in the middle, asshole on a podcast, not exactly accountant telling it to one other dude, but not passing myself off as, some comedian either. And
but you have an audience, and here's the problem. I've had someone. So I had a joke go crazy viral in a few different formats.
Okay.
I had a clip where I talk about. It was the big heckler clip that went viral, the first one, the idea of like, I've never, what's it called? Someone accused me of like not knowing anything about kids, so I can't talk about them. And I said, well, I've never flown a helicopter, but if I saw one in a tree, I could still say, dude, fucked up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the joke. Someone made a meme of the joke, and then that meme got super popular. And then I did that joke on stage, and someone came up to me after the show and accused me of stealing that joke from Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, motherfucker, that's my joke.
Every so often.
And no, I'm saying, and that has happened. Brett Druck, who tours with me a ton, he had a joke go very, very viral in a meme where he used to wear glasses. He doesn't anymore. And a lot of people, because they're assholes, they'll share the meme and Photoshop the person's name off of it. Like his name was on the meme. And they'll just be like, "Oh, let me slice it so that it's really awkward and right up to the words of the joke, so his name's not on it anymore." Because for some reason that is better, even though his fucking face is there. But because he looks so different than he used to, he gets people after shows. He now does a bit when he does the bit in his act. He talks about it going viral because I've seen it happen a dozen times.
Yeah,
of people coming up to him and saying, "You stole that bit."
Yeah, I've been accused of it, like on this show. Like I don't remember what it was, but I did a thing one time, and I was just telling someone else's joke, but the whole premise, the whole preamble was, I heard this funny thing, or something like that, and like, how these podcasts go. Sometimes like, everybody laughs, and then like maybe Woody or the guest or Taylor or whoever like quickly has, I got a story before I can be like, yeah, it was on Comedy Central last night. It was this guy. Like, I don't like joke stealing. And like, if someone writes a joke, legitimately writes one, that's so impressive to me, because that's a skill that I don't, it's like alchemy to me. What I do if I'm funny is I tell you a story that happened to me in a funny way. Like my cadence and the way I tell you the story, like beat for beat, is what makes it funny. There's a pause, and then this happened. And that's how that's my branch of humor that for as much as it is.
Well,
So
all you guys,
stole
all
my
you guys are
routine.
professionally funny. It's just in a different way than a monologue on stage.
Yeah, certainly.
I didn't realize it had happened, but I told a story, right? And it was something happened to me. I think it was the time I went to a black barber, and he did my hair as if I was a black person and shaved the front of it, and it looked really terrible. And it was right there.
Squared up.
I got squared up, and I'm on the show with clearly not a white person's haircut.
He shaves a Knicks logo into the side of your head. It's real weird.
And
I'm Woody's friend, so I don't want to like shit on him, but it's like if it were a picture from his hair looks he's styling right now. But so I feel comfortable saying this. I don't feel like it's hurtful, but at the time I feel like I could have ripped on that hair for like 20 fucking
it was
minutes.
bad.
It was so bad.
I actually, knowing I was
get
going
this
on
out.
PKA this week, I extra far-headed for you guys, by the way. I got styled. Just
so
that, yeah.
Going into it, I thought the haircut was going to be this great experience. I thought black barbers were the most talented barbers because they did their fades and such so carefully, and that the experience of being at a black barbershop with all the banter would be wonderful. That's why I went there. And after they did my hair and there was like awkward silence, like I ruined everything just by existing, and the haircut itself was terrible and not what I was looking for.
Yeah, they wanted to talk about honkies, and you're sitting there.
And then the kicker is, after they did all this, I gave them my son. Right. So they cut his hair bad too.
Never got him back.
Anyway,
I was like, as a tip, that's weird.
I saw a comedian tell my story. Someone sent me a Reddit message and they're like, look, this guy stole your whole thing. And it even ended with like, then he did my son. And I was like, huh. But I didn't mind. I almost felt like I contributed a joke out there to the world.
No, that's horseshit. That's absolutely. I think anyone who, whether you're speaking professionally, writing professionally, a combination of both, like stand-ups do, your IP is all you have. And so someone stealing that, and also, like I said before, it does nothing. It takes no credit away from you to give the credit to the person who wrote it. You're still an interesting person who found it. You're still telling a good story. You're still charming people. And so if you go out of your way to not give that credit, like I have people all the time, that helicopter thing gets commented on Reddit constantly. And thankfully, I have a fucking army of people who will write under it and they'll tag my username. Or they'll just be like, hey, I also liked that joke that Steve Hofstetter told.
You know the difference?
And like that's positive.
I perform, if you call it, on a format where you can't use anything twice. So like my IP doesn't have, I feel like, the same value that yours does, where you might run with a bit for a year.
Okay, true, but at the same
audience.
time,
it would be like if you had the same audience every night, right? Like if you played the same club in the same town, same small town every night. I
mean, you saw what happened on the show today, kind of accidentally. Like, I'm guessing I told that hotel story on this show before. I've been on here like 9 times.
I watch your comedy.
But I've never told that in my act. I wrote it on Reddit. I wrote it on Reddit years ago. So
I follow you on Reddit
it was
too.
on there.
I know that story. I'll just say that from you.
Right, but that's my point. You knew that story, and Woody, when you were like, did that really happen to you? There might have been an element of like, oh, I've heard that before. Is that your like, or you just or maybe you were just saying like there's no way you would play porn to a family, and if you say that, you do not know me well. But the but the idea of not even knowing necessarily where you heard something. There's a thing called cryptomnesia, which is basically, and I had it happen once with one of my best jokes. The premise of it, I heard from another comedian 5 years earlier, didn't realize I heard it from him, commented on his joke on Reddit. It was the same premise. But when something happened on Twitter that, like, there was something trending on Twitter, the joke that I did was, I saw Leviticus was trending on Twitter. The part of the joke that's not his is I said, why is it trending on Twitter? Did Jay-Z have a baby? And so like that one was mine. But then I said, because it was trending because of that Bible verse, thou shalt not lie with a man the way one would lie with a woman. And to me, that doesn't sound like a prohibition. That sounds like sex advice.
Yeah.
That's the premise.
Yeah.
He had the same premise. Now, I went on for another 2 minutes in a different direction than he went on, but it doesn't matter. The reason that premise came so easily to me when I saw Leviticus trending for that reason is because I had seen it 5 years earlier. And I didn't realize where I had seen it until after the special was already recorded, after that's already out in the world. And another comedian was like, hey, man, that's Keith's joke. And then I realized, oh, fuck. And I had to call him and apologize to him because I didn't realize I took it.
How often do comedians, like, believe in that apology? Like, hey, Steve stole my joke, and then Steve says, accidentally.
I think it depends on who you are. I'm so virulently anti-joke theft. Like, I run a Facebook group of comedians and writers against plagiarism, and like we're the ones who got when the Fat Jewish had his book signing canceled. That was us. Like, when we see shit like that, we mobilize and like make sure that his sponsors know that he's stealing our shit and like etc. And so
you really
like
Jew it up.
It's and this was a guy against a guy named Fat Jewish of all things. Which, by the way, that bothers me the most of the bullshit that he does. It's like, you can't. Jerry Seinfeld did all this hard work making a good name for Jewish people, and you got to go fuck it up.
He's your fucking hood ornament.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, we talked about this pre-show. I like Jewish people because of two things: Jesus Christ and Jerry Seinfeld, and not in that order.
Oh, I forgot that was pre-show.
I did too.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I forgot that was pre-show. But
no worries.
Yeah, but but my point is that I have a track record of calling people out when they do it. And not only that, but also being careful of it. I wrote an opinion piece about how, and it was called "No, Your Joke Is Not Stolen." And it was about like when two people make the same joke about something in the news, they didn't steal that from you. The writers of Conan did not watch your set in front of 4 people at an open mic and steal that from you. They saw the same fucking story that was a very viral story, and they came to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell when it's stolen if the transitions are the same, or if the inconsequential details are the same.
Or perhaps even
like
the cases. Like, you can tell when it's stolen. Like comedy is a bit like mathematics.
Yeah.
In that way. It's like it's if I see your order of operations and it's identical to mine, I'm like, whoa, we got there the exact same way. We dotted the I's and crossed the T's exactly the same. I don't know about that. But if we have the same observation, that's
why it was so important to me to get the part about sending Colin to the Black Barber, because everything else could have just been his experience that was like mine. But
absolutely.
But
that is the kicker.
Yeah.
That is the kicker. Like and it's weird. That guy didn't even have a son. But
honestly, I'm going to interrupt you for the 4th time, I think. The punchline of that joke, if you were on stage, like that could be like an actual bit of you telling that, and then you put on stage, you like hit a clicker, and it's a picture of you and Colin sitting there with those black people haircuts. Because, dude, I saw it, and it is comical. Like,
it really was.
It's like they're both Will Smith from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but they're the whitest 2 gentlemen you've ever seen, and they're just both like.
Colin has red hair too. Yeah.
Even Colin knows. He's like, I don't know if this looks good.
I saw.
Daddy says it's cool, but I don't think so.
The 2 most egregious that I've seen were I was at this was 2005, I think. I was at the Calgary Comedy Festival, and I saw this kid who, he did this poem, and it was a word for word Jeff Ross poem, and it was a thing that played on Comedy Central a ton. I knew it by heart when I was in high school. Like, I still know it by heart, and I go over to him afterward and I go, "Hey man, that's a Jeff Ross poem. I'll do it in a second. I know my storytelling." And so he goes, I gotta save the story so there's a good punch so that so many of the viewers can think that I made it up. So then I go over to him afterward and I go, "Hey man, that's the poem you did is a Jeff Ross poem." And he goes, No, man, my friends and I wrote that in school." And I go, No, your friends and you said it in school, but that's a Jeff Ross poem. And he kept insisting. So then I go, the poem is called "I Miss Her Sometimes. I ran into my ex-wife the other day. Then I backed up and I ran into her again. I miss her sometimes." And I look at him and I go, "Do you think I memorized that from your set, or do you think I already knew it?" And like, he still kept insisting that it was his. And I was like, it's a thing you did as a kid, but it's not, it's word for word, the same exact thing, same title, same misdirect. And then there was another guy at the same festival who did an Adam Hunter joke. And it's a joke that Adam did on God, this is how long ago it was. It was not even Ferguson, it was Kilborn. And so the joke was, and Adam was my roommate. I knew this joke so well. And the joke was, I hate when someone tells me they have a boyfriend after I buy them a drink. Be like, "Oh no, thanks, but I have a boyfriend." Oh no, it'd be like, he goes, "Oh, what's your number?" And she goes, "Oh, I have a boyfriend." And he goes, "All right, what's his number? Because he owes me a Corona." So Good joke. But the guy told it with the same fucking beer in Canada. You don't find a ton of Corona in Canada. And so I called him out on it. And I go, hey, man, you saw Adam Hunter do that joke. And like, that's his joke. And he just keeps insisting that it's his. And I go, I've been here for 6 days. I haven't seen anybody drink a Corona. Like, why would you have the same exact beer reference? That's crazy. So then and that was the last night of the festival, at the post party, he was ordering Corona to try to like prove me wrong. To try to just be like, see, it's possible.
Those both seem like possible cryptonesias. Do I have the word right? It's a new word for me tonight.
Yeah. Cryptomnesia.
This is mid-90s, though, from Jeffrey Ross.
Do you accept it as cryptonesia? Like in their explanations? Like, I think when they said this is our joke, they might not be lying. They might be wrong, but not lying. Their intent is...
Well, the thing about the Jeff Ross poem, that is a word for word. Like, the thing with he owes me a Corona, I guess. But what I'm saying, the reason I think that's not cryptomnesia is because the first part of that joke could have been parallel thinking. The first part of that joke could have been cryptomnesia, where he could have seen Adam done it on the Late Show. But to have the same exact beer reference, an inconsequential detail, that could have been he owes me a Molson. It's Canada. That would have made it a better joke. Like that's what I'm saying. When there's a detail that doesn't change the punchline and you use the same detail, that's when it's stolen.
Yeah, he's been telling that joke since like 95 or something like that. That's an old.
Oh, the Jeff Ross poem?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's his.
Yeah.
That's his. And it's funny. And it's not like I miss her sometimes. There's tons
brilliant.
of punchlines, but then I throw another rock, but there's tons of ways that you could make that your own to some extent. But no, it's his. It's his. He was the first one to do it.
But anyway, that goes back to, so what Woody asked was the idea of like, how many times does a comedian accept the apology? I think it depends on the comedian apologizing, and it depends on the person who's accepting the apology. So the comedian, I'll give him a shout out. Keith Lowell Jensen is the guy that I cryptomnesia'd from. And I was actually working with him in probably 3 months from then at the Punchline in Sacramento. And I called him up. I didn't have his number, but I knew someone who knew him. And I was like, hey man, I feel terrible. This is what happened. And he was cool with it right away. Like he was like, hey man, I know you didn't mean anything by it, because I think he knows me well enough and he knows my reputation well enough to know that there's no fucking way I would ever do that. Like, and I also immediately took, except for the part where it's in the special, I took the meme down. I took the clip down. Like, it's still in the special itself. There's nothing I can do about that. But I scrubbed every other reference to it because I was like, this doesn't feel right. Even though 2 minutes of this joke is mine, the premise is not, and so it's not original.
And even all the way to the accountants at the water cooler, you still have it. Would you say all your comedian peers agree with you on that?
No. I mean, all my comedian peers don't agree with me on a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
But I think that it is not it's a cardinal sin to do it on stage. It's a cardinal sin to do it, on a podcast. It is just kind of a dick move to, if you know where you heard it and you actively don't give credit, like that's a shit thing. Like if you try to I broke up with someone over trying to pass off an urban legend as her story.
What urban legend? I gotta know now.
Oh, it's a horrible thing.
The
she also
hand
made it
man, like what was this?
No,
we were
she
making out
also
under
made
a
it
tree, and it's something was scratching on the...
the worst part of it. Well, I'll tell you after the thing. So the story is, and the way she told it is that she was a friend of hers was dog sitting, and she was over at the place, and so she's dog sitting with a friend of hers in DC, and they and the dog is very old. And one day, they come back from dinner and the dog's dead. And she's freaking out because she's like, oh my God, I killed this dog. What do I do? And so she calls the family, and the family says, don't worry about it. The dog was very old. We knew this moment would come. It's okay. You're not in trouble. And she's like, okay, but she realizes that like she's dog sitting for a week. She can't just leave a dead dog at this house. So she's like, what do I do? And they say, well, there's a vet, that does disposal. You could just take it to the vet. So she's like, okay. And she hangs up, and then she doesn't realize that, like, how the fuck am I going to take this giant dog to the vet? It's like two girls who were relatively small, this enormous dog. So she finds a huge suitcase and she puts the dog in the suitcase because she's got to take the metro to get to the vet. It's like 2 stops away. She can't just walk with this suitcase. And so she gets on the metro and she's like, the two of them are struggling to get it down the stairs. And this guy comes over and he's like, oh, can I help you? And they're like, oh, yes, please. So he takes, the suitcase down the stairs for them. They wait for the train. They're talking. And the guy's like, what is in that suitcase? And she's like, oh, it's DJ equipment. Because they don't want to say, hey, I have a dead dog in the suitcase.
Sure.
So the train comes. And as they start to get on the train, he grabs a suitcase and runs. So that's the story that she tells me. Now, in her story, by the way, the guy who took the suitcase was black.
Of course he was.
In the urban legend,
funny.
In the urban legend, he is not. She made the story more racist because she's like, oh, no one will ever believe that someone will steal something unless they're not white. That's ridiculous. So, but she tells me the story. I had not heard the urban legend before. And I just heard it as a crazy story. And she says the whole thing. She tells it as if she went through it and her friend's panicking and she calmed her friend down and this whole thing. And it's like 3 days later. And I'm at dinner with like one person I know and a couple other people. And one of the people says something about like talking about how, like their friend's father's dog just died and they had like a hell of a time trying to find like a way to bury it properly. And I go, oh my God, I heard this crazy story. And I start to tell the story and I get through like 3 sentences of it before the guy goes, yeah, and the guy stole the dog. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, that's an urban legend. My dad used to tell me that story. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I Google it and it's fucking everywhere. It's appeared as like legend since like 82. Like this story has been out there. And she passed it off as if it happened to her. And I was like, fuck you. Everything you say to me is a lie. Like, couldn't you just say, hey, I know this funny story. I know this interesting story. And instead she was like, this happened to me. And also black people are thieves. Like that was her. That was her
funny
position.
Way to do that, I think. And sometimes it's the best way because timing is so important with jokes and interrupting someone's expectations is sometimes such a good punchline. Like, tell it like it's you, and then at the end be like, that's not mine though. That's an urban legend. I had to tell it that way. It's funnier if I tell it that way because you've already gotten your laughs.
Absolutely, like the Good Will Hunting, like the
it doesn't ruin the joke because the joke already. It's like it would be like if you ate something and some delicious meal, and after you'd eaten it and enjoyed it thoroughly, they were like, that was snake, right? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have eaten. I wouldn't have enjoyed it if I'd known it was snake the whole time. But yeah, it was good. I guess I like snake. All right, okay.
Yeah, God damn it, that's some good snake.
Yeah.